Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Dave and today I'm out in my vegetable patch doing some work out here. It's springtime, September. For us here in Australia it's sort of our planting season for putting vegetables in. And we've put a couple in about 2 or 3 weeks ago. We started planting this out and doing some work to clean up the veggie garden from over winter. Now if this looks a bit familiar, then it certainly does look a bit different from when I was putting in the French drain down through the middle here. We had a big gully down here putting the pipes in, so all that's been filled in and it certainly looks a lot neater now than what it did before. So let's have a look at what I've got planted so far. Now I've got just an old rainwater tank that we've got in the centre of the vegetable patch, and this makes it a lot easier to be able to pick the product out of here when it grows and stuff. It's sort of at waist height. So we've got a couple of tomatoes in here. I have no idea what they are. Let's see what they are. They are a tomato sweet bite cherry. So these are the little small tomatoes we've got in there, and some bigger ones over here. Which ones are these ones? These are the mortgage lifters. So that's a bigger tomato we've got in here. We've only got the 2 plants in at the minute. We did have a couple of others in, but we had a really late frost and it knocked them over and killed them, so we only have 2 in at the minute. I did have a lot more in previous years, but you end up with so many tomatoes, you're trying to work out new ways of how to bottle them and keep them and make sauce with them and stuff. So at this stage we've just got the 2 in here, but we're going to add to these today and we're going to make a new bed to put some Grosso tomatoes in. I've got a very small little capsicum plant in here that we've put in. Over here we've got some, what is this? I think it's a cucumber from memory. And that has been bitten a couple of times by the frost and it's slowly growing back, but it's certainly taken a while. Okay, in this bed we've got our silver beet and spinach. This has been in about 3 weeks or so. I gave it a feed of blood and bone last week and that certainly has helped it on a bit. So we've got the silver beet there, and then up the front here we've got spinach, which is growing. So we've got them growing both together here. That's going okay. They were very small plants when we put them in, sort of almost about that size. So they have grown okay in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And in this garden bed we've got beetroot, which we planted as quite small plants, and that's going okay as well. I actually thought this was all beetroot, but I'm looking at this plant here and that certainly doesn't look like beetroot. That looks like silver beet. So I think we must have had a few excess plants in silver beet and we've put them in here. But the beetroot is growing well. We've always managed to do pretty good with beetroot. It seems to grow pretty quick in the conditions we've got here, and we put them in, these ones in a bit earlier. We can put these in and they don't seem to get affected by the frost as much. Our very sad looking eggplant. We've had this in, and every time it grows to about this stage we get a frost and the leaves get bitten and the leaves fall off. Anyway, we are holding out hope that it will keep growing. And in this bed we've got carrots that I've put in, and these ones were planted from a punnet. They were quite small and they seem to be growing okay. Up the other end I've got more carrots that I've put in from seeds, so these will be probably about 4 weeks behind the other ones that are a bit bigger, but you can see that these ones are slowly coming up. There's a few weeds in there as well I've got to get into and thin these out a little bit. When we bought our property we found 2 of these cast iron bars. There's one over there and this one. So we brought them into the veggie patch and we used them for growing lettuce and herbs into. In this bath we've just got some mixed colour lettuce, so we've got some nice purple lettuce there and some green lettuce. That seems to be going okay so far. I like putting them in tubs or off the ground. It keeps the snails and the insects out of them a bit. So far they seem to be going okay. And then on the edge here We've got some spring onion that we've planted in there, and that seems to be going quite well. These look quite healthy at the minute. In the second bath we've got some more herbs planted in here, and this is our poor old basil that keeps getting hit by the frost. You can see that some of those leaves have browned off a bit, but it seems to keep wanting to grow back, so I think we'll be okay now. It's warmed up a little bit. We haven't had a frost for probably 2 weeks or so. We've also got some parsley that we're growing in there, and that's going quite nicely. And we've just got a single rosemary plant at the minute, but we'll probably put some more of those in. And that's what we've got planted in the veggie patch so far. We do have a couple of empty beds here that we've used, and what we tend to use each year is we tend to rotate the crops around, so we're not planting the same type of vegetable in the same box every year. We move them around. In this one is set up, I've got sort of an old piece of fencing wire and stuff in here, and we usually grow tomatoes in here. I think we had tomatoes in there last year, but at the minute I haven't cleaned this one out yet, and I've got no real plans to do much with that one. This one last year we had a lot of silver beet spinach growing into, and what else did we have? A few pumpkins maybe we had in there. So again, what we tend to do is just rest a couple of these, so we will have a year where we don't actually plant anything into them. We'll just cover them over, take the weeds and the grasses and stuff out of them, cover them over and just leave them rest for the year. We did put, I can see what's growing here now, we did put sweet potato in one year, and it's still growing back. Year after year the sweet potato comes back. Anyway, so what we're going to do today is I've got a couple of extra tomato plants, and I'm just going to put them down here in the corner. There's a couple of weeds here and stuff I've just got to pull out. In here last year we had corn on 2 raised beds that ran down here. We had a corn crop in there, and this year I'm just going to put some tomatoes down here. So I'll probably prepare maybe a third of this size here and put our Grosso tomatoes in. And it's a little bit low. You can see there that it probably needs a bit more soil brought in. And I've got a little bit left over from when I was doing some work with the other trees last week, and I've got some soil here, and I'll just scrape that up and I'll put that in, and that'll just bring that level up a bit. And then I've also got some amendments which I'm going to put in here. I'll go and have a look in the shed to see what I can jazz the mix up with. Now this soil I got from the garden centre, and they call it a organic garden mix, so it's supposed to be better than just normal topsoil. It's got a mixture of mushroom compost, some sand, broken down sticks in it, and I've used this in veggie patches before, and although it sort of looks okay and smells okay, I don't know if it has a lot of nutritional value. I have watched some other channels where people have talked about still putting amendments and compost with this soil to make it better. When you sort of look at it, what I notice is that it's got a lot of sand in it, that I think that they pack it out and put a lot of sand in it, which really doesn't have much nutrient in it at all. So I am going to use it, but I am going to put some other organic material in there just to make it a little bit better. Okay, I've put my garden soil mix in there. It's not quite high enough, but I do have some more amendments to mix in there, so that'll certainly bring that level up a little bit more. Now before I mix anything in with this soil, I'm going to give it a dose of this stuff, and this is a seasol soil wetter conditioner, and I've used this with great success on the lavender and stuff that we have. And you put it on and it works into the soil and makes the water soak into the soil a lot better. quite often if you are watering and you find that the water is just running off, then the soil could be hydrophobic, which means that it repels the water and the water doesn't soak in. So I'm going to just put a couple of capfuls of this into my 9-litre watering can here, and just a tip is to put the water in first and then add this. If you put this in first and then add water, it all just foams up and makes it a bit more difficult. I'm just going to pour it onto the soil, and you can see straight away that it sort of soaks straight into the soil, and then I'll just mix it up a little bit and put some more on. You can put this on established plants. You just have to be careful that you rinse it off any green foliage, because apparently it doesn't like to be on the green part of the plants, but you can certainly water around the plants or make it okay. So there's a bit in there. I'll just get my rake and I'll just mix that up a bit. Just turn the top of that over a little bit, and I'll just put a bit more of that solution in there. And then every probably once a month I'll just come out and I'll just do it again. It really does make a difference. As I said, we've used it on our lavender plants that are in really bad soil, and you can see straight away that the water tends to want to soak into the ground a lot more. Righto, that'll do me. Okay, the first amendment I'm going to put in is this dynamic lifter. It's very popular where we are in Australia. It's basically a soil improver and a mild plant fertilizer. It's not a very strong fertilizer. It's this pellet type stuff, and I'm just going to sprinkle that in around the area here. I'm only going to do well, nearly a half of this bed, maybe a little bit less, and then I'm just going to mix this in, and this will just sit in the soil, and when the tomato plant roots reach down a bit, it'll find this stuff. The second product I'm going to add is this aged sheep manure. I've used a couple of different brands over the years, and I found that this one tends to be quite good, so I'm going to put probably about half of this bag in. So I'll just put it in by a couple of handfuls, and it's a nice rich mix here. I am actually trying to find somewhere local to me that has like horse stables, and you know, so I can volunteer to go and get some stable muck out of the stables and bring it back and dry it out. That's really good stuff as well, and there's a lot of horses and stuff around here, and so I might do that. I might try and take the mini truck down there one day and the digger and see if I can find somebody that wants me to clean out their horse area. Right, that's probably enough of that. Right, the third part of this mix is just to add some mushroom compost, and that looks like that. Lovely black material, so I'll put probably about half a bag of this in as well. And now I'm going to put in a couple of handfuls of this blood and bone mix, and this is really the great stuff. You can see it there, and I'm just going to put some in the soil and mix it through, and then I'm going to put some actually around when I put the tomato plants in, and this really sort of spurs them on and gets them going. And then every couple of weeks come out and just spread it around the plants, and they really seem to take off. Right, that's about it. I'm just going to lightly now mix this, not too much. I don't want to get the compost and the mushroom compost and the manure too far down in the dirt, so I'm just going to lightly do the top of it. Okay, so here are my tomato plants. I've actually had these for about a week, 10 days, something like that, and it's been really hot here, and we've just waited till the weather cooled down a little bit until we put them in. There's 4 individual plants in this punnet, so we're just going to break them into 4 separate plants and put them in. And the variety of this one is called a Grosso, and just looking at the label there, it says that it grows 6 feet high. So we'll just have to put them in today, and then I'll have to give some thought about making some sort of trellis that they can grow up as they get bigger. Okay, I've dug my hole and I've got my plant here, and I'm just going to put it in quite deep so the first couple of leaves are actually under the ground. I just found it, they usually grow a little bit better if you plant them deep like that, so that's not too bad. Actually 2 in that plant, but I don't want to divide that original soil too much and disturb the roots there, so we'll put them in together. Again, quite deep. Put the first couple of leaves in the soil. This is another one that's got sort of 2 plants in the mix, but that's okay. Put those in. Now these 2 are sort of separate, so I might try and see if I can cut those with my spade here down the middle. And I'll put one in here somewhere, quite deep. Yep. So I've got 4 there, and I've actually got this little one left over, so I think I'll just put it in the middle here. It's probably, you know, they'll probably all end up growing together anyway. So I'll just put this one in there. Yep. And that'll be good. So that's 5 I've got in there, which isn't too bad. Now I'll just get another handful of blood and bone. I'm just going to put a little bit around the outside here of each plant. Like that. A little more on this one. Okay, that's good. Then I'll just go back to my mushroom compost and put some compost around the plants. It gives it an extra zing. Okay, we'll just give that a bit of a water now. And then finally, to finish it off, I'm just using some sugarcane mulch just to put on the top of the ground, just to sort of seal that moisture in. And I've actually used a couple of different things. In the actually one year we used pea straw on our garden, and it seemed to work all right, but all of a sudden we got peas growing everywhere, so we haven't used it since. We've gone back to just the sugarcane mulch, which seems to work pretty well. Put that on reasonably thick, just to make sure any of the leaves, just pick up any of the leaves that are there. Put it on the top, that's all good. Right, I'll just give it another water, and this is to wet down the sugarcane mulch and stops it blowing away in the wind. and that'll do us. So there we are, that's my tomato Grosso plants in the ground. We'll just have to wait and see now how they grow, but we'll check in a couple of weeks and give you an update and see how they're going. Righto, that's it for putting tomatoes in. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.